So I'm excited to learn more about Amanda. Are you guys with that bio that I just mentioned? Are you excited to get to learn more about her? Awesome. So Amanda, can you share with us your journey as an entrepreneur and how you ventured in this industry? Because it's not like we're Asians, right? You're supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer, one of those title degrees. So tell us your story.
Thank you. I actually started in corporate America, and I feel like that's a typical. After graduation, I looked for a job. I went to school on the East Coast and came back because of the good Asian daughter. I couldn't stay in Boston. My mom said, "We only sent you there for college, not to stay." And I actually came back. And after that, I was working in the corporate world for a while, and my last position was actually happened to be in special events. So I really started doing more of their events for nonprofit and the corporate events. And then I actually at the time had a boss who was getting married, and she's like, "Hey, she didn't ask me to help, but I had lunchtime, so I actually volunteered." And I said, "Okay, I'll help." And I realized that it was so much fun, kind of like what Megan's saying, right? And I just did it because if you're good at it and you're passionate about it, it's just something comes very naturally for me at the time. And pretty much 3 years after corporate world, I decided to start my first agency with a business partner. And for that agency, we started doing actually corporate events as well as social events. And then we did that partnership for about 8 years, and I went on starting my own after that. And it's been 9 years since then, and 2 decades in the industry, because I would say I actually started planning even in college. I just love bringing people together. I think at the end of the day, events is about human connection and bridging that gap and seeing all the people in the room and making that room come to life through the experiences that we build, right? So I think that's, in a nutshell, that's how I started. And I can't believe it's been close to 20 years.
That's amazing. And like for me, this is, we're a working board, so this is volunteer work what we do at the chamber. And I completely agree with you that, it gives you that spark that, your lunchtime. So my mornings, my lunchtime, my after work, my weekend is kind of chamber stuff. And even though it's exhausting, it really is, but at the end of the event, it gives you that high. And sometimes I could not sleep because I'm in that high. I'm sure I'm exhausted after this, but, I would not be able to sleep because of that high. And, there's hope with starting your hobby. You have to try different things like how you did, and then that was your calling and you pursued it.
Yeah, at first when I started, I told my parents I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna start event planning, and they're like, "What is that?" in Chinese. So I had to look it up in Chinese. I told them, they're like, "So you want to do party planning?" And I was like, "No, that's not what I want to do. I want to bring people together." And they're like even more confused. But I think, I'm very grateful because my dad happened to be also an entrepreneur. So I told him, just give me a year. If it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to get a regular job again. And it's kind of worked out since I'm still here, but I think it's just taking that leap of faith. And I've always been 100% in or 100% out. So when I decided to kind of took that leap of faith and leave my good job, I just did it, and then at the time I was still living at home. I was not married, I didn't have kids. So I would say the risk is low. If you want me to start today, I would think a lot more carefully. But back then I was young, why not? So I kind of just jumped in with both feet and kind of tested out. I sat on a few boards. My first nonprofit event was an event for 800 people. So I sat on the steering committee. I did that event and it turned out really well. And I realized, wow, I can really do this. It's not just I think I'm good at it, but I'm actually really good at it. And I can make a living doing this.
See, like those of you all who volunteer in nonprofit boards, you might discover something. A new passion. Thank you, Amanda, for that. So this next question is very special for me. And one of the reasons why I wanted to connect with Amanda is diversity and inclusion. So this is a big topic, with AAPI, Filipino Americans, minorities. We have to really advocate for each other more than ever. And we're very fortunate. We're in a country that supports that, our state, our city, where we live. So I think, this is a great conversation for us to have. So since, diversity and inclusion are crucial aspects for today's business landscape, could you discuss how you've integrated those principles into your entrepreneurial journey, particularly focus on AAPI and also women representation?
That's a great question. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, I got into events not just for the sake of doing events. For me, when I look at it, I see a much bigger picture. It's really culture building, and that's what I see. And we are, as an event agency, we have so much power and so much, I think, we could really empower and also direct our clients and the brands that we work with, or even clients, like how we navigate the event, right? I can choose to have a panel of just Caucasian speakers or just, no representation. So we're always at the forefront, and our team does this too, to make sure that there's diversity on the panel, and then also we incorporate, a lot of time in the beginning, especially with some of these political events that we were doing, it's a lot of men. And I was like, where are the women? And I don't want just the women to be the moderator. I'm like, there has to be a dynamic businesswoman out there, or politician that's also women. So we would kind of send that prompt. So I'm sorry, there's some people that got kicked out because of us, but we really just want to make sure it's very dynamic and AAPI is represented. Also, when the pandemic happened and Stop Asian Hate, I think as Asians, a lot of us are more reserved. We're the group that's considered like we don't speak up as much. I mean, we also have clients that's like the Latino, the African American, and they're so vocal. And I was kind of waiting around like, where's the Asian voice? And nobody really stood up to speak for our to speak for our group, especially within the events industry or some of the business community. And then I just decided, you know what? Instead of waiting, why don't I speak up? And I did. I raised my hand, and then people start interviewing me, and I started being, kind of sharing that experience and sharing what's going on in our community, even the other boards that I sit on, like entrepreneur organization. There's some people that didn't even know Stop Asian Hate was going on. And really a lot of people was thanking me and say, hey, we appreciate you sharing this, because we did not even know this was happening in your community. How can we help, right? Step one of representation starts with awareness, right? And then I think it goes into multiple levels. And I also a big champion of women, because I feel like as women, we do not raise our hand up enough. And I'm a big proponent of that. And there's a great video on YouTube. I could send it to Luis afterwards. But I love that one, because it tells you a lot of times women, we just kind of, because of circumstances, we think a lot. We consider a lot of people because we're such nurturing human. And then so we'll say, oh my gosh, no, we won't do it. Let him have the opportunity. But then by doing that, you kind of lose the opportunity for yourself, right? So keep your hands up and just keep on, seeking for that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's why, I love what you said about not waiting for someone else to do it for you, so you did it yourself. And, we find ourselves, in our community, in the chamber, and the more that we have these awareness, and you talk to other people about it, and they're like, oh yeah, you're right, I didn't know about that. How can I help you? So for me, allyship is huge. That's why I keep on saying, even in our mission vision, that diversity is important. One of the things that I wish is we'll have a non-Filipino board again. Because right now we're 100%. It works both ways, right? And before, there's so many women in our board, I'm like, I love women, but we have to have a balance. Balance is good, diversity is good. So I always look at it in all different ways, because you get the opinions, the thoughts, and insights that you're like, I never thought of it that way. That is very helpful, like when you have diverse people.
Yeah, and I just want to add, diversity also comes in age. So on the very first sport I joined, I was actually one of the youngest one, and they looked at me, they're probably thinking, what can she add to, because everybody else was 40, 50s, and I can tell you, I crushed it. I crushed it. Because by the end of my term, I was president. But now just looking at the next generation, these are people that are passionate, right? With different generations, there's different ideas. The diversity of ideas help elevate an organization, help elevate a company and a brand.
Absolutely. So those running for board, we want diverse ages and genders, so please apply. So for like any entrepreneurs, there's always setbacks, right? So you were brave and courageous in taking that step, for your first year, for 2 decades. But this always comes with setbacks, these entrepreneurial journeys. So have you faced any instances where your diverse background led to adversity, and how did you navigate those situations?
No, it was smooth sailing for 20 years. Nothing. I think all the entrepreneur here can relate. It's up and down all the time, right? So setback is definitely there, and when it comes to adversity, I try not to look at it that way, but I do feel like we have to work a little bit harder to stand out a little bit more, to be more vocal. And one of the setbacks I encountered when I mentioned about my first agency, I actually had to dissolve that one, and it was a huge setback in my entrepreneur career, because I felt like I built this great agency and I have to dissolve it to start another one. Are you crazy? Right? It's kind of like giving your child away. That's what it felt like. And going through a business divorce, that's what the attorney said. But you know what? I started the second one, right? And then when it came to the pandemic, I think that's the most recent big setback because of I don't know, people asked me before, like, have you ever felt like you were not chosen? Especially when we work with a lot of Fortune 500, you're not chosen because you're a minority. And I have to say, I adjust my mindset. I don't like to be victimized. Instead, I just say, how do I stand out more? So I actually play into the culture more. But I can tell you, I've been in boardrooms and I've been in pitch meetings where I'm the only Asian, and let alone an only Asian woman. And sometimes intimidating, like at first. But now I just enjoy it. I'm like, yes, I'm the only woman, or yes, I'm the only minority. Don't you have a DEI commitment? Hire us. So I kind of turn that, right? But setback is real. It's really about mindset. Like, how do you kind of adjust your mindset so you really use that for you? Lean into that fear. Yes, I'm Asian. Yes, I'm women. There's nothing I can change about that, and I'm proud of it. Right? But how can I use this to my advantage?
Thank you so much for that. And this is another special one for me because I love networking. I started with 0 contacts, 0, because I was, in the background. I'm doing underwriting, no face-to-face. So when I jumped into a role that requires sales, I'm like, oh my God, I have to go out and network. So being a business owner, building a successful business requires a strong network. And a lot of people here are business owners, professionals. Could you elaborate on how you built and utilized your network, not to only grow your business, but also support diversity and inclusion initiatives?
I think organization like this is so valuable. So kudos to all of you that made time to attend and made time to connect with one another, right? And it's organization like this that you have resources that you could tap into. And I think anything I spend my time to join, whether it's a member or on the board or on advisory, I really think, how can I add value? If I can add value, then it's going to make my presence or make my involvement that much more impactful, right? And then everything I'm involved in, I say, I want to leave this organization or this company a little bit better than I found it. So I always try to first understand, what is it they're lacking? What is the pain point, right? How can I add value? And then from there, really, raise your hand again, right? And just say, and volunteer and step up. And kudos to all the board members here. It's a working board, so they have a real job on top of doing this. And this is, you don't get paid, and I've been on other working boards before, and we always joke, like, yeah, we do this because we get paid. And then another board member will say, just kidding, you don't. But honestly, like all the boards I sat on, if I have to look at my entrepreneur journey, one of my favorite moments were the ones I am part of a certain board or multiple boards. Because the magnitude of people that you meet, and everybody, especially the people on the board, honestly, like, forget just being a member, just straight, some of them have requirements. You have to be a member for 2 years, and then you can be considered on the board. Dude, please fast track me to the board. That's where the go-getters are. That's where the superstars are. Those are the go-givers. And I always think, like, I want to be a go-giver. I don't want to be a go-getter. If you're a go-giver, that's who you also attract to. And in terms of diversity, so one of the boards I sat on, which is entrepreneur organization that I mentioned, and it happened to be during the pandemic when I first started my term, and they didn't have a DEI chair, so they say, oh, Amanda, I guess someone threw my name in the bucket. They're like, you could be DEI chair, but there's no job description or anything. So I kind of have to craft that, but the beauty of it is I get to be the one to drive awareness for the organization about DEI, about AAPI, right? So I think there's so much power. And I also sat on the diversity advisor and really champion for small business, right? Like, how can big corporation work with small business? We cannot have the same payment terms as other big agencies or other big businesses, but there's gotta be champions, and I wanted to be that voice that can help do that. So I think that's really great. And then we also started our podcast called Event Up at the tail end of actually the pandemic, just because there were so many people asking the same question, and we wanted to kind of centralize those resources. And I also I was noticing within our industry that a lot of people were being highlighted, but not a lot of AAPI and not a lot of women. And being that, I was like, well, I'm going to create one because we know how to do this, sort of. And, I happen to have a staff that used to work at iHeartRadio. I'm like, you know what you're doing, right? So we just started the podcast, and just with one episode, and we're now in, I think, episode 56, something like that, or 60, I'm not sure. But it's been really, really great because I get to invite and curate the talent, the top leaders within our industry to come and speak and to amplify their voice. And a lot of them, I would say like 2 months ago, I actually was just talking to my staff, because we do it all internally. We don't get paid for doing that. We don't have a sponsor for it. Like, is this making an impact? And literally that same week, 2 of the speakers reached out. One of them got a job offer because of the podcast, and another one got other opportunities, right? She got invited to other speaking engagements. But now their voice are amplified, and that's exactly my intention. So I was just very proud that we can use that as a vehicle to help uplift others.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Like what you mentioned about bringing value and being a go-giver. Yeah, give first, so that you can get back. When we go to networking events, it's like, okay, how am I going to get business? Let me just talk to this person so I can get his business, her business. The change in mindset gives you so much more value that that person will remember you forever. And that person who helped me on the first day, I still am thankful for like years and decades. You will never forget that feeling. So I think we're going to the last few questions, a couple of questions here. So real quickly, as a role model for aspiring entrepreneurs, what key takeaways or advice would you offer to those who are looking to make their mark mark?
I actually copied this from another speaker, but I'm more progressive and trendy. So he had it in his wallet on a piece of paper. So I actually have it on my phone. And these are, I think as a business owner, there are moments in time when you're just like, I don't know what to do, or maybe you're stuck. Should I jump on this opportunity? So I actually keep these notes on my phone. I used to have it on a piece of paper. And the first one is who, not how. Right? So I build a team. It's not all about me. It's who, not how. The power of intention, process to scale, team managed company, mindset, client pain point, and always providing value, invest in yourself. And my last one is standard of integrity. Does this fall within my standard of integrity? Would I do this? So I kind of follow those whenever. Those are some of my tips for someone that's looking, just in general. Not necessarily just events, I think business-wise, yeah.
So thank you. I hope you all took notes for those. If not, we're going to share them with you all. And lastly, could you please share any upcoming projects or initiatives you're involved in that will continue to champion diversity, equity, and inclusion in entrepreneurship?
A lot of the initiatives we're still continuing. The podcast is going really well. We're actually hosting a dinner tomorrow night and another one in New York the following week. And as far as I have a book that's coming out. So talk about really getting out of your comfort zone. So last year I was part of a collaboration book, and this year I decided to write my own. And so that'll be launching in Q4 this year. And the whole point is to, again, help amplify and uplift others through my story. I feel like I'm at that age, and I can say that now, where a lot of when I first started, I wish I had known. I want to pass down to the next generation, right? And for those of you that have really in a different level now, really think of ways you could pay it forward. I feel like you get a lot when you pay it forward. And they're so adorable. They're like, I'm just out of college. I'm just like, oh, I'm not. I'm like, I'm married with 2 kids. But it's so great. So pay it forward in that sense.
Thank you, Amanda. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a big round of applause. You have inspired me so much. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts and insights and experience in our community. It's not just about Filipinos, right? We gotta go outside. And the next one is AAPI. So that's why it's I gotta look at, someone who did a really great job in representing the AAPI community and women at that, which is both are very close to my heart. So thank you, Amanda. I appreciate your time, and thanks for being our keynote speaker. Amanda.